John Wayne Gacy was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1942. He had a difficult childhood with an abusive father who often beat him and called him names. Despite this, Gacy was a popular student in high school and was even elected president of his class. Gacy's criminal history began in '68 when he was charged with sexually assaulting a young boy. He was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was released after only 18 months for good behavior. In '72, he was arrested again for sexually assaulting another boy, but managed to get the charges dropped. In '76, Gacy began his killing spree and now taking on his clown persona, dubbing him the Killer Clown. He lured young men and boys to his home under the pretense of offering them work, money, or candy, and then sexually assaulted and murdered them. Gacy buried most of his victims in the crawl space beneath his house. In '78, one of his victims managed to escape, and Gacy was finally caught. In March 1980, Gacy was convicted of 33 sex-related murders and given the death penalty. Joe Metheny was born on March 2, 1955 in Baltimore. He was a serial killer who claimed to have killed 13 people, but sufficient evidence was only found to convict him of 2. Raised in a poor environment, Joe joined the army in '73. He claimed that he had served a tour in Vietnam and had become addicted to heroin during this time. In the '90s, he held a steady job as a truck driver, spending nearly all his money on drugs, living in camps with homeless people. Joe murdered a woman in 1994 and buried her body in a shallow grave. He was tried for murder in a different case in '95 for allegedly killing 2 homeless men with an axe. A jury concluded in July '96 that there was insufficient evidence to convict Joe of murdering the 2. Shortly after being released, he murders 2 sex workers, this time with a better idea for disposing the bodies. Instead of tossing them in the river, he dismembered them, mixed the flesh with beef and pork, and pressed them into patties. He would grill these burgers out of the small barbecue stand he opened. He claims to have received no complaints on the taste. He asked a friend to help him bury a body he had been hiding, but the friend reported it to the police on December 15, 1996, and Joe was arrested and charged with murder the same day. Metheny was sentenced to life with no parole. He was found dead in his cell on August 5, 2017 at the age of 62. John Joubert was born on July 2, 1963 in Nebraska. After his parents' divorce, he was not allowed to visit his father and grew to hate his controlling mother. To compensate for these feelings of isolation, he joined the Cub Scouts in 1971. It was around this time that his sadistic and homicidal fantasies progressed to the point where he contemplated murdering strangers on the street. He was a bully throughout high school and even stabbed or slashed other students. He then went to murder 3 boys from August 1982 to December 1983. The murders were brutal. Some was bound with a special rope. All 3 were stripped, stabbed, and slashed several times. Kidnappings are under FBI jurisdiction, so they started investigating the case. On January 11, 1984, a preschool teacher in the area of the murders called police to say that she had seen a suspicious man driving in the area. When the driver saw the teacher writing down his license plate, he stopped and threatened her before fleeing. A search warrant was issued, and rope consistent with that used to bind the kids was found in his room. John confessed to killing the boys, and on January 12, was charged with their murders and sentenced to death. He was executed on July 17, 1996 by the state of Nebraska in the electric chair.